Hello guys, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into Exodus chapter 16, King James and the Message version, starting with King James. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. The children of Israel said unto them, Would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Then said the Lord unto Moses, Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them, whether they will walk in my law or no. And it shall come to pass that on the 6th day they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. And Moses and Aaron said unto all the children of Israel at even, Then ye should know that the Lord hath brought you out from the land of Egypt. And in the morning then ye shall see the glory of the Lord, for that he heareth your murmurings against the Lord. And what are we, that we murmur against us? And Moses said, This shall be, when the Lord shall give you in the evening flesh to eat, and in the morning bread to the full, for that the Lord heareth your murmurings, which ye murmur against him. And what are we? Your murmurings are not against us, but against the Lord. And Moses spake unto Aaron, Say unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, Come near before the Lord, for he hath heard your murmurings. And it came to pass, as Aaron spake unto the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in a cloud. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, At even ye shall eat flesh, and in the morning ye shall be filled with bread, and ye shall know that I am the Lord your God. And it shall come to pass that at even the quails came up and covered the camp, and the morning the dew lay around about the host. And when the dew that lay was gone up, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoar frost in the ground. And when the children of Israel saw it, they said one to another, It is manna, for they wist not what it was. And Moses said unto them, This is the bread that the Lord hath given you to eat. This is the thing that the Lord hath commanded. Gather it, every man according to his eating, an omer for every man according to the number of your persons. Take ye every man for them, which is in his tents. And the children of Israel did so, and gathered, some more, some less. And when they did meet it with an omer, he that gathered much had nothing over, and he that gathered little had no lack. They gathered every man according to his eating. And Moses said, Let no man leave of it till the morning. Notwithstanding, they hearkened not unto Moses, but some of them left it unto the morning. And it bred worms and stank, and Moses was wroth with them. And they gathered it every morning, every man according to his eating. And when the sun waxed hot, it melted. And it came to pass that on the 6th day they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers for one man. And all the rulers of the congregation came and told Moses. And he said unto them, This is that which the Lord hath said, Tomorrow is the rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which ye will bake today, and seeth that will seeth. And that which remaineth over, lay up for you to be kept until the morning. And they lay it up until the morning, as Moses bade, and it did not stink, neither was there any worm therein. And Moses said, Eat to that day, for today is the Sabbath unto the Lord. Today ye shall not find it in the field. 6 days ye shall gather for it. But on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, in it there shall be none. And it came to pass that there went out some of the people on the 7th day for to gather, and they found none. And the Lord said unto Moses, How long refuse ye to keep my commandments and my laws? See for that the Lord hath given you the Sabbath. Therefore he giveth you on the 6th day the bread of 2 days. Abide ye every man in his place. Let no man go out of his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. And the house of Israel called the name thereof Manna, and it was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey. And Moses said, This is the thing which the Lord commandeth. Fill an omer of it to be kept for your generations, that they may see the bread wherein I have fed you in the wilderness, when I brought you from the land of Egypt. And Moses said unto Aaron, Take a pot, and put an omer full of manna therein, and lay it up before the Lord to be kept for your generations. As the Lord commanded, Moses and Aaron laid it up before the testimony to be kept. And the children of Israel did eat manna 40 years, until they came out to a land inhabited. They did eat manna until they came unto the borders of the land of Canaan. Now an omer is the 10th part of the ephah. I'm going right into the Message version of Exodus chapter 16. On the 15th day of the 2nd month after they had left Egypt, the whole company of Israel moved on from Elim into the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. The whole company of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron there in the wilderness. The Israelites said, Why didn't God let us die in the comfort of Egypt, where we had lamb stew and all the bread we could eat? You've brought us out of this wilderness to starve to death. The whole company of Israel. God said to Moses, I'm going to rain down bread from the skies for you. The people will go out and gather each day's ration. I'm going to test them to see if they'll live according to my teachings or not. On the 6th day, when they prepare what they have gathered, it will turn out to be twice as much as their daily ration. Moses and Aaron told the people of Israel, This evening you will know that it is God who brought you out of Egypt. And in the morning you will see the glory of God. Yes, He's listened to your complaints against Him. You haven't been complaining against us, but against God. Moses said, Since it will be God who gives you meat for your meal, and in the evening, and your fill of bread in the morning, it's God who will have listened to your complaints against Him. Who are we in all this? You haven't been complaining to us, you've been complaining to God. Moses instructed Aaron, "Tell the whole company of Israel, come near to God. He's heard your complaints." When Aaron gave out the instructions to the whole company of Israel, they turned to face the wilderness, and there it was, the glory of God visible in a cloud. God spoke to Moses, "I've listened to the complaints of the Israelites. Now tell them, at dusk you will eat at dawn. Meat. At dusk you will eat meat, and at dawn you'll fill of bread, and you'll realize that I am God, your God." That evening, quail flew in and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew all over the camp. When the layer of dew had lifted, there in the wilderness ground was a fine flaky something, fine as frost on the ground. The Israelite took one look and said to one another, "What is it?" They had no idea what it was. So Moses told them, "It's the bread God has given you to eat. And these are God's instructions. Gather enough for each person, about 2 quarts per person. Gather enough for everyone in your tent." The people of Israel went to work and started gathering some more, some less, and some they measured out what they had gathered. Those who gathered more had no extra, and those who gathered less weren't short. Each person had gathered as much as they needed. Moses said to them, "Don't leave any of it until morning." But they didn't listen to Moses. A few of the men kept back some in the morning. It got wormy and smelled bad, and Moses lost his temper with them. They gathered it every morning, each person according to need. Then the sun heated up and it melted. On the 6th day, they gathered twice as much bread, about 4 quarts per person. Then the leaders of the company came to Moses and reported. Moses said, "This is what God was talking about. Tomorrow is a day of rest, a holy Sabbath to God. Whatever you plan to bake, bake today, and whatever you plan to boil, boil today. Then set aside the leftovers until morning." They set aside what was left until morning, as Moses had commanded. It didn't smell bad, and there were no worms in it. Moses said, "Now eat it. This is the day, a Sabbath for God. You won't find any of it on the ground today. Gather it every day for 6 days, and on the 7th day is the Sabbath. There won't be any of it on the ground." On the 7th day, some of the people went out to gather anyway, but they didn't find anything. God said to Moses, "How long are you going to disobey my commands and not follow my instructions? Don't you see that God has given you the Sabbath? So on the 6th day, he gives you bread for 2 days. So each of you stay home. Don't leave home on the Sabbath day." So the people quit working on the 7th day. The Israelites named it manna. What is it? It looked like coriander seed, whitish. And it tasted like a cracker with honey. Moses said, "This is God's command. Keep a 2-quart jar of it, an omer, for future generations, so they can see the bread that I fed you with in the wilderness after I brought you out of Egypt." Moses told Aaron, "Take a jar and fill it with 2 quarts of manna. Place it before God, keeping it safe for future generations." Aaron did what God commanded Moses. He set it aside before the testimony to preserve it. The Israelites ate manna for 40 years until they arrived at the land where they would settle down. They ate manna until they reached the border unto Canaan. According to ancient measurements, an omer is 1/10 of an ephah. So I don't know, hear my commentary, I guess. They're free, and God is providing for them, leading them. They're already complaining, but they seem to complain in every single chapter almost. Whether it be that, being in bondage or wanting to be free or getting free and maybe not being free the way they had imagined, or even having a problem with how they were being freed, or once they are free, complaining about food. But I've said this so many times, I see God as like the ultimate husband, and I mean, he is described as that in this book, the Bible, New and Old Testament. He is the true husband. He's the true version of what we try to emulate here on earth. He's the real one, and we're his bride, And in many cases, even when we are trying to follow God and like know him and walk in his ways and all that, like he's saying here, we're still like messing up all the time, imperfect, and just ruining things. Even with our best. It says in this book, they're like dirty rags to him, filthy rags. And I think even that is an understatement. If you know like the holiness of God and how perfect and good he really is, merciful and all that. He's just on levels just beyond, like just infinity beyond us. And I'm including myself in that, You guys should know that. I'm not like some extra special human being that, I'm above it. No, I'm on this human thing with you guys. I mess up too. And I have filthy rags too, as my best efforts. So just watching these guys, I just kind of can see myself in that. I can see just people in real life with that, because sometimes we're reading this and we're going, there's so many times, I know I've read it in the past, these passages, and have gone like, look how ungrateful they are. They're ridiculous. But as I mature and get older, I realize I'm like this too. Sometimes, God's performing wonders and like giving you blessings and miracles and all of that. And we can be really ungrateful. Like each and every one of us at some point or another, if not many, many times, can be so ungrateful about our blessings because we're looking at the things that we don't have. And I think many cases the complaint is legitimate because we live in a fallen world and things are unpleasant and hurtful, and some things are on extreme levels of wrong, like oppression and abuse, and I know what that's like too. But even in that, even living an oppressed or abusive life or season or whatever, there's got to be something, even like a tiny little bit of something that is worth thanking God for, even in the midst of not really understanding. And that's really hard for a lot of people who live really in such darkness, even when they're trying their best. Believe me, there's Jobs out there. There's people out there living a Job life. If you don't know what I mean by Job, you will know as you keep reading this with me. You'll get to know that story. Maybe you can relate to it in some ways, but there are some people out there that have a whole life that's like Job, or have had a Job season, or maybe is in one or will go through one, and it's just completely undeserved or unfair, and it's just happening, and you can't stop it. It's just happening to you, and you just kind of have to put your chin up and your best foot forward and keep the faith and hope in God, and keep walking that narrow path and being your best person, and not letting the circumstances or the situation change you for the worst. That's really hard to say. It's even harder to do, believe me. But I won't get into too much about that, except to say, like, just hang on to God. It's easier said than done, but it can be done. And it is in your best interest for yourself to choose God anyway, even if it seems like He's not hearing your prayers about your Job situation or whatever you might be going through. That's really legitimately tough. Just hang on, because He does hear. I just think in some cases you just don't really understand the whys of everything. And even in the Job story, it's not really explained why these things happened to him, He doesn't really get a real explanation, and we'll get into that later. But I think sometimes it's not about getting the why did this happen to me, or why are these people like this to me, or, whatever. I don't think it's really about that. I think it's about what will you do in response. I think that's the more important question, is what will you do as a response, and not a reaction to it, but actually responding to it, or not responding sometimes. What are you going to let it help you become, better or worse? And as I said, this is hard to actually do. It's easier said than done, but it can be done. And I would love to share a testimony with you guys about my own Job situation, that there's just so much I want to tell you guys that I have to kind of wait until something happens before I can tell you. And I'll tell you why I had to wait as well when that time comes. I'm just waiting on God right now to make that possible for me to share this testimony with you. And it's a big one. It's so many little ones in one, so I might have to do like a part series or something, because it's that much. And I think the reason behind me going through some of the things that I have in my life is so that I can share it with other people, that, you don't have to let it turn you. You can at least not turn you bitter, or, turn you into, maybe the abusers that you dealt with. You can use that to be even better than you were. Be even stronger through God, and just more awake and more refined, and the positive, constructive, productive, just the best ways. So I say all that to say, going back to the Exodus chapter 16, these people complaining and things about life, it's just so normal. We've all done it, and, I'll probably do it again. It's just human. Everybody's done it, and many times. But I think if you can, at, most points in your life, if you can catch yourself, even in the hardest moments, and just kind of pick out some things, even just the most simplistic things. And God has put me in a situation where sometimes that was all I had, was to look at the simple things in life and cherish that. Find joy and contentment and peace in that. Sometimes something just as stripped bare, to the basics of life, of just being glad that there is a God, and that there's justice, and that He's just, and He's righteous and holy, and He's in control, and that I have to trust Him, and that I would just be heartbroken without Him, even with all this stuff happening, even if none of it stops. Sometimes you have to get to that point, to be honest, and it would be better to get to that point when you do have a lot of things going for you, than to be like at the bottom of the barrel thinking that. But either way, at some point you should get to that point where just nothing in this world really matters, as long as you have God. But there are other things too, that He's made possible for you. His blessings, just like if you have food to eat, and I know some of these things people will roll their eyes to it, because it's just like, oh, what minimal. But it's like, sometimes it is like that, just to be grateful for life, being alive another day, even if it's miserable for you. There's got to be something. There's just got to be something. Like even the thought that God thought that you should exist, that God believed so much that you, particularly you, should exist, that you are here. And so that makes you worthy, just as worthy as anyone else. Having shelter, even if it's just like a tiny place with cockroaches, and I've lived that. Okay, I've lived that story. But still having a place to go, because I've also been homeless before as well, for a short period of time. There's so many stories, guys. When I tell you, like, my life is just a big old testimony. Whatever you're seeing here, whatever you think you're seeing here, like, it just doesn't really say much about what I've lived at all. And I want to tell you all about it, because I think it's just going to help somebody, but I think it will help a lot of people, ultimately. And so I'm just going to get back to this chapter, because I'm kind of going off a little bit. But the point I'm trying to make is, we all complain, but if you can stop yourself and just find things to be grateful for, even if you are going through things, even if you are worried, if you can stop and just find things to be grateful for, find positive things in your life, or even the smallest, tiniest blessings, if you could just cling to God despite, for these people's instance, not having bread or food. They were willing to go back to their oppressor because they didn't have bread and food. It's just a whole lot of, sometimes when we're complaining, we're not even thinking clearly. I think a lot of times when we're worried and complaining, we're not thinking clearly. And as I said, we've all been here before, but I just think it's just, if you can just kind of stop that train, or just train yourself to stop thinking only or focusing on just that. Even if you don't understand, and you could just look to God and just go, I just trust you. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why this is happening, but you're a good God and I trust you. And I'm praying that you'll deliver me out of this. I'm praying that you'll give me bread to eat. I'm praying that you'll get rid of oppressors. I'm praying that you'll put me in a nice environment that's God-fearing and bright and happy, or positive or peaceful. Whatever it is, So, the funny thing about it is, as they complained, God heard them. And as I said before, when you're going through what you're going through and you think God doesn't hear you, He does. He does. And He heard them. And this goes back to the husband thing. Because it's like, he's engaged. He's got his wife out of that crazy stuff. And the wife is just complaining, I don't have bread. I don't have this, whatever. And, as a nice husband, he's like, I'll get this for you, wife. I heard you complaining. I got you. And then he does this wonderful miracle thing. This manna from the sky coming out. Like there's dew, and then on top of that, there's this manna, Just a mysterious kind of substance that came out of who knows what. And it says in here, the Message version, that it's like translated as, what is it? Because you don't really quite know what it is. It's just kind of this otherworldly substance that can be made into bread. And it's the kind of bread that they want. It's not unleavened bread. They're able to bake loaves, fresh every day, mind you. He's even making sure that if you don't get enough of it, collect enough of it to bake, somehow you still have enough. There's some disobedience happening in here where he's like telling them that just get enough and, eat it all in that night, and there'll be fresh food, fresh manna tomorrow. And they're just going against it, doing whatever they want to do, keeping extra, and then it gets all moldy and stinks and worms are in it. It's just like, just do what he says. But as I said, I can see us, today's time, just regular, everyday humans of today, 2025, just being going to do your own thing. Even though God said this, we're just still going to do our version of it even. And I'm guilty of that as well, So, and the Sabbath was a big one. He made sure that you get double portions on the 6th day, and then the Sabbath or the Shabbat comes, and there's enough, they're supposed to cook everything on the 6th day. And this reminds me of my grandma. Like when we would take out the Shabbat, she would always cook everything on Friday so that, the pots and everything would be ready. She would cook like really good food too, like really great food, soul food, really. She would cook some great stuff. Pork free, of course. And when the Shabbat would come around, we'd go to church, and then we'd do our Bible study and bring it in, the night before, and all of this stuff, sing the hymns and all of this. It'd just be a whole day, whole 24 hours about it, And when we come home, we'd be hungry, and she would just pull out the racks and racks of food, she made the night before, and we would just heat it up and have a nice dinner, And she took it very seriously, the Shabbat. I would not take it as seriously as I do now or remember it if it hadn't been for her just bringing it out every week, as it should be done. And this reminds me of that. Like, as I was reading this today, it just really makes me think once again, like, how important the day of rest is to God. It's such an important time for him. And thus it should be for us, that day of rest. It's a big deal that not only is it a day of rest and we're not working in things, not even down to cooking. We're not supposed to buy or sell. And on top of that, it's a day about him, really concentrating on him and being with him, learning about him. And this is part of the reason why I don't record and post on Saturdays, because I'm not supposed to, like I think it's just supposed to be a day of rest. And I know that this is reading the Bible and things, but it takes work to make these and put them up and, edit them. Or these are unedited, but the shorts and stuff, I have to go through those. And all those things take time and work. And for him, I'm not sure if that's really what I should be doing. I'm not sure. So I just kind of take a sabbatical on Saturday and just kind of chill out and I could focus on him more. I haven't been doing it as much as I should be focusing on him on a Saturday. So I am going to try to get back into that and the way that it should be done, the best of my knowledge in my heart. So, they're kind of going against him. Even on Saturday, they're going out looking for the manna, and he told them that it isn't going to be out there. They were supposed to collect double as much, the day before and all of this. And he made sure that they did, even if they didn't get enough. He made sure that they had enough, even if they didn't gather enough. And they still went out the next day looking for it, even though he said no. So, and he provided meat too. Quail's just coming over, He's got his wife's back, Supreme gentleman here, God. Even though they were complaining and we should be back in back in Egypt or whatever, God was just like, I got you, wife. And he hooked up Israel. Even Moses is getting ticked off by them. As I said, I used to be so mad at them too, and it is not okay, but I just realized also that we've all done it. We've all done it. We've all just kind of done our own thing, even knowing what God wanted us to do. And those who don't even do nothing with God, that's just reprobate type activity. There's so many people that are with God or try to be with God and know God, have known God, that will still do their own way. I've done it. I can say, May? I've done it this year for sure. Good number of times. My own thing. Or my own version of the thing that God said, like an idiot. For dumb, selfish, self-serving reasons. And no, I'm not out there going crazy. But still, just something as simple as this. God saying, take off the Sabbath and rest and don't do any work. Don't buy, don't sell, don't cook. Just something as simple as God just saying, get the manna and eat it all, and there'll be fresh manna the next day, and they just gotta save some or gotta go out on the seventh day. It's just little things sometimes that even then, those little things, I think it says in here that God was testing them to see if they would even obey him, and they were failing. And we've all been there. We've all done that. Even when we were trying to have a relationship with God or have one with him, or we're on that narrow path, there's just times that we still kind of do our own thing, even as something as mediocre or small, like how these people are doing. Not something just blatantly sinful, but just still not really what God had said anyway. And I think those things are just as important. It says so here in chapter 16. It's iterating how important even to these tiny, seemingly insignificant emotions are. They're still important to God. Clearly. So, it does say at the end here that they ate manna for 40 years until they arrived at the land where they would settle down. So they're in this wilderness for 40 years, okay? Now, maybe not to this date, this part that we're at, but it's saying overall the time that they're in this wilderness doing this was for 40 years, guys. So they were delivered out of Egypt, and then they just went into the wilderness. They took that detour that God had brought them, and they stayed there. Now, I wonder, I know some of you guys are wondering who hasn't read this before, why were they in there that long? Oh, that part's coming, guys. It is. And it's got a lot to do with this whole being obedient or not. But we'll get to that another time. chapter 17 of Exodus. These are the things that stood out to me. God provided for them magically, mystically, and only a way that God can. And it was otherworldly substances in a way, and flocks of quail and all this, every day having it fresh. And they still doubted God and complained to him and things. They still did. And as I said, I'm not trying to give these guys leeway, but it's just, I understand the human aspect to that, because I think we've all done that. Even when you are walking with God, we've all done that, where we've doubted him, or we've done this, gone out and did our own little thing, even if it wasn't a big one, something as simple as just not honoring the Shabbat, So, I'm going to move on to chapter 17 of Exodus, and I would love to hear your comments on chapter 16 if something stood out to you. I just love Bible study. It can be difficult sometimes when you have a really long day, but I'm just happy to be on here and read with you guys. I'm not sure how many subscribers. I think there's about 60. I should do another story time or potato filming video, and I'll think about what the subject of that would be. It's just things have been so busy with school and just so many other things, and just my actual life, that coming here and doing this has been a little bit of a challenge. But I appreciate you all for holding on and waiting until I got better when I was really sick and all of that. So God bless you guys. I would love to hear your thoughts on this chapter, on just what we've read so far, even back in Genesis, whatever you got on your mind. I would love to hear about it. And I hope you have a blessed day and night, and I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow in chapter 17. Bye.